Hi there, Agile friends. I'll come in here just with a quick note to let you know that the Agile Online Summit 2022 is coming soon. To know more, check out bit.ly/AOS2022. That's all one word, all lowercase, bit.ly/AOS2022. Now, stick around to the end of the episode if you want to know more, but for now, on to the show. Hello, everybody. Welcome to our TGIF Friday and Product Owner episode this week with Shaun Bradshaw. Hey, Shaun, welcome back.
Hey, Vasco.
So, Shaun, on Fridays, we talk Product Owner, and of course, we'll talk about great Product Owners in a minute, but we do want to start by looking at some of the anti-patterns. So describe for us, Shaun, what might have been potentially the worst Product Owner anti-pattern you've witnessed in your career.
So I actually have two stories. One of them, the first one I'll relate, and it's hard to say which one is worse, but the first one I'll relate, it goes back to the client I had that was doing embedded software. And because it's embedded software, there's a hardware component, and this particular product owner was very vested in the hardware side and sort of really stuck in the way things worked on hardware versus software. And he had a very command and control personality. And it got to the point where there were some things that he could describe very well. He was very knowledgeable on what needed to be done, but he also wanted to tell the team how to do their work, which I felt was a big no-no. And it got to the point where he and I had exchanged some words, I'll put it that way, where the final statement he made was, well, either the team does it how I tell them to do it, or I will not sign off on their final work. And basically, they will meet none of their commitments. That was really hard to hear. And as a Scrum Master, I'm tasked with the success of the team, but I also want to make sure that as an organization, we're moving in the right direction. And I was being blackmailed. So in that particular instance, I went to one of the organizational leaders, and people were aware of this person's personality. They knew how he was. And the question I got from leadership was, well, what should we do? And I said, well, frankly, I think he needs to be, let go. I know you're not going to fire him, but at least take him off the team. It's toxic to the team. And it took a couple of sprints, but over 2 or 3 sprints, we were able to transition another person into the PO role. And this person that was actually given I'll put in air quotes, a new title and a higher position level, so that he actually never had to be a PO again.
So that's actually a great reminder of how important that acceptance is between product owner and team. And by acceptance, I mean that the product owner needs to accept that their role is not to tell others what to do or how to do it in this case. It's actually to set the vision, set the direction, yes. Right? Like explain what the value is that we want to deliver, explain maybe what is the customer problem we're trying to solve, but then work with the team to get to the next step. And especially never take ownership away from the team, because that's a self-defeating proposition.
Yeah, that leads into the segue for the second story. This was with a shipping logistics software company. So they develop software that does logistics for big shipping companies. And in this particular instance, we had a PO who was, I would say, largely unavailable. It was just, it was like pulling teeth to get them to really engage with the team. We had tools, and so we had our stories in Jira, and so we could see what was going on. But this particular instance, the team just had one of the best sprint planning sessions. This was a newish team, probably 3 or 4 sprints in. And everybody felt really great about what we had come up with as our commitments for the next sprint. And with 10 minutes left in our time, we were wrapping up. the product owner literally walked into the room, hadn't been in there the whole time, walked into the room and said, "Oh, is this what you planned? No, we're not doing any of that. This is what we got to do instead." And I was furious. I was I was so mad, and I ended up I spoke to the product owner. I spoke to the head of development. I spoke to both of them together, and I said, "This cannot happen again. You cannot come into the team room and not be involved the whole time, and then come in and tell them after they've done their work that everything they just did was worthless." I said, "You completely deflated the team. They were on cloud nine, about to walk out of the room, and you completely destroyed all of it." And I wish I could say the behavior changed, on a dime, but it didn't. Frankly, it wasn't that egregious, but there continue to be problems, and so that's one of those things where I think as a Scrum Master, you really have to build that relationship with the product owner and make sure that they stay fully engaged with the team throughout. And I'll take the fault on that a little bit too, by not ensuring that the PO was fully engaged throughout not just the sprint planning, but even before that.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, the relationship and the collaboration we may or may not be able to trigger with the product owner is incredibly important for the success of the team. I mean, we created a whole course just for that relationship. I'll put the link on the show notes for those interested to explore what it includes and how it could help. But that relationship really is the dynamic duo for success in the Scrum team. If you could turn back the dial of time and go back to that point in time where you started to develop the relationship with that PO before all of this shenanigans happened, what would you have done differently, Shaun?
I think the first thing I would have done is actually create the relationship. So I think part of the problem was, and part of this is because I am a consultant, so I don't always live with the teams for years on end. I kind of come in, I work with teams over the course of several sprints, sometimes several months, and I just did not put enough emphasis on building that relationship early on, and so I let it go. And then of course this happened. I was frankly more focused on the team dynamics, not counting the product owner. And I should have been incorporating the product owner more. If I had it to do over again, and I will say I try to do better now, I'm much more engaged with product owners up front.
Absolutely. And great reminder indeed. All right. But not all product owners are like this. Some are really superstars. And I mean that in the sense of helping the teams succeed, not focusing everybody on themselves. So tell us a story of one of those product owners. Describe them for us. What was the best product owner you've ever worked with?
So the best product owner I've ever worked with was just enthusiastic about what she did. And she was the perfect mixture of creating a vision for the team, at the same time staying curious as to what the team could do. And again, there was a sense of enthusiasm that she brought. So for example, we would come into a refinement meeting, and she would ask all these open-ended questions related to the stories where she felt like she needed more technical input to really help determine for herself where things needed to fall in line in terms of priority order for the team. She would, during sprint planning, she would actually print out the stories and then cut them out herself so that the team could kind of when they were doing the planning on the board, they would actually be able to take the stories and put them up on the board in order, and then kind of map out the tasks that they wanted to do. She was fully engaged with the team, not just during refinement planning and the demos, but she was constantly having these sideline conversations with different team members about upcoming activities that may go into some future sprint. And like I said at the beginning, I think the thing she did best was help shape the vision for the team, but at the same time remaining curious as to what they wanted, what they felt, and the inputs that they gave.
Yeah, absolutely. And that speaks to the need to create that collaboration with the team, right? Like at the same time, as I am clear on the vision that I give the team, I'm also open to what they have to give me to shape that vision, right? And you talked about having technical discussions that would inform prioritization. Very often, we either don't let the team contribute to the prioritization discussion, or then we let them contribute too much and forget that there's actually a vision, and not everything can be done as the team wants, even though there might be good and logical reasons to do so. So that fine balance is really critical, and it can only happen if there's a good dynamic, we could even say good chemistry between the team and the product owner.
Yeah, definitely. I think it helped. I'll say this, it could go either way. She wasn't particularly technical, but she was okay not being technical. And I think that's what, led to her openness and curiosity from the team's perspective around some of the stories that she was generating. So she understood the business, but she also knew that she didn't know the technical, and she was open to letting them tell her what, when certain things needed to be, reprioritized, or certain dependencies or technical methods of doing things, and why we actually needed to do this infrastructure piece first before we actually do this really high priority piece. Because if we do it the other way around, we're basically going to have a lot of technical debt we'll have to redo. And so I don't know if a PO shouldn't be technical. The bad PO that I mentioned earlier, he was very technical, and I think that was part of the problem for him and in his direction on how things needed to be done. But I think sometimes it can definitely help.
Yeah, absolutely. And well, this is actually a good reminder that it's not a big problem if the PO is technical. It's not a big problem if the PO isn't technical. The problem is how the relationship develops, right? Like, is it a relationship of dictating how to do certain things? I mean, I've worked with POs that would go to the level of telling team members which bits would need to be flipped on a registry. So it can go to that level of detail, right? But of course, if the product owner is so far away from the technology that when they talk to the team, they are not even speaking the same language anymore, that can also be a problem. And for us as Scrum Masters, it's incredibly critical to help not only develop our relationship with the PO, but also to develop the relationship between the PO and the team.
Yes. Yeah.
So, Shaun, it's been a great week, loads of great stories that we've had this week, but unfortunately, we're getting close to the end. But before we go, where can we find out more about you and the work that you're doing?
So if anyone's curious, they're welcome to visit our website, zenergytechnologies.com. I'm available. I do blog occasionally on that website. I do post a few things on LinkedIn. I'm not a huge social media guy, so although I have a Twitter account, I don't typically tweet too much. But I would certainly welcome your audience to take a look at our website and see if they find anything else of interest.
Absolutely. And why not just reach out to Shaun and ask a few follow-up questions. Shaun, it's been a pleasure. Thank you very much for your generosity with your time and your knowledge.
Thank you so much for the invitation to be with you, Vasco. I've had a great week. Thank you.
Hi there, Agile friends. Thank you for sticking around to know more about this year's Agile Online Summit. The summit will have 4 keynotes and 4 tracks you will not want to miss. The keynotes will touch on critical topics for us, from delivering on time to helping you to focus on sustainability. The 4 tracks are tools, so we'll focus on tools you need to excel at your job, but also your mission. We'll also have a track on sustainability, which is, of course, about people and their sustainable pace, but it's also about how do we bring sustainability to the products and the planet we inhabit. We'll have a 3rd track about happiness, talking about doing what we love and, most crucially, loving what we do. And finally, the fourth track will be live. It will be mostly hands-on sessions to help you roll up your sleeves together with the presenters. Oh, and we will also have a coaching clinic, as we usually do, organized to help you discuss and get inspired to solve the hardest challenges you face at work. This year, we'll have a special emphasis on interaction with your peers, so get your ticket and join the Slack at bit.ly/AOS 2022. As always, we have free tickets for anyone that wants to attend live and the VIP tickets for those of you who want to keep the videos forever. So check them out at bit.ly/AOS 2022. I'll see you on the conference floor. One more week of the Scrum Master Toolbox podcast is over, but there's a lot more we have to share. We have developed our own membership site where you find a community of active and engaged Scrum Masters. In this site, you get access to exclusive content and get to interact with us, your podcast hosts, as well as the best Scrum Masters in the world. Join us at scrummastertoolbox.com/podcast and keep this podcast free of advertising. See you next week for one more week full of Scrum Master tips and tricks. We really hope you liked our show. And if you did, why not rate this podcast on Stitcher or iTunes? Share this podcast and let other Scrum Masters know about this valuable resource for their work. Remember that sharing is caring.